What's up, chess player? Today I'm gonna share with you the number one reason why so many chess players can't break through in terms of their chess level. After analyzing so many of my subscriber games, I have noticed that there is one thing that doesn't really allow you to come to the next level. So today I want you to overcome this issue once and forever so you can be a stronger chess player. Welcome to the Journey to Grandmaster, our next class to improve your chess level. So my subscriber Ponkan8 has played here as white e4, e5 and the Rui Lopez, one of the most difficult openings in chess because, well, there are so many different variations, there is so many theoretical nuances, and you need to really understand this opening. Once you do it, you can really be a very strong chess player. So yes, I agree that this opening is a good to play on all levels. So let's see what happened here. So castles, nothing special here. We are not gonna go too much into the details of the theoretical variations because, well, still it's around 1400 level. So we really need to focus on the main principles that would allow you to become much stronger if you really understand and master it, rather than learn, I don't know, some 20 moves, 20 long moves, theoretical variations. So d3, everything is normal. We are developing our pieces. Black is playing h6 and trying to prevent the bishop g5 probably here. Of course, there are some more active moves, but at this level, it's not that significant. h3, well, another useful move, but the reason why computer doesn't like it is because it's not the most active move. And of course, the engine always prefers the most active move, and that is exactly what I teach you as well. So checks, captures, and threats. That is a secret formula you must always follow to find the best move in every position possible. So checks. Do we have any checks in this position? No, we don't. Do we have any captures? Yes, we have bishop takes c6 as well as knight takes c5, but the later one is a mistake as the pawn is protected there. So we can, and the pawn is protected by the knight, so maybe we can remove the defender, and that is the second capture. And afterwards, there will be nobody to really deal with this pawn, so we can capture it. So often in the Rui Lopez, it happens that black, or white as well for that matter, sacrifices that e4 or e5 pawn just to get more activity. But in this case, why it doesn't work anymore for black is because white has defended this pawn, so no rook e8 would win the pawn back. There is no real problem with the pawn capture. So if you play this opening, be really sure to check every time whether you or your opponent has an opportunity to capture this pawn, because, well, that might be very significant. You remember that the pawn is a soul of the chess game, so you don't want to give up your soul to your opponent, because you don't want to give up your soul to your opponents, because that's going to be pretty horrible. So h3 has been played here instead, and rook e8, of course, black developed the rook and defended the pawn, so bishop takes e6 is no longer that great. Rook e1, I'm not sure whether the rook is really standing great here, because, well, there is some pressure against f2 pawn, and the rook, as long as you don't play d4, and doesn't seem the case as you have played knight c3 instead of c3, a very typical plan in the Rui Lopez to play c3, preparing the move d4, and this knight is going to d2, to f1, and then somewhere here to the center. But that is not the case, so the rook on e1, I'm not sure it's so great there. So now finally captures and bishop e3. So now we see why the rook is there, to exchange this bishop, but we can conclude that the opponent has a very good outcome for black, because, well, no real weaknesses, no problems in the development, so I guess black fully equalized the game. But once again, at this level, everything just begins here. I don't understand why black voluntarily played bishop to b4 here and exchanged the bishop for a knight. That's also, by the way, one of the mistakes I notice so often on a low-rated level, that people are just exchanging the bishop for a knight like that. I mean, they're just willing to give up their bishop. And remember that Bobby Fischer always said that that is a minor exchange if you manage to win the bishop for a knight. So never do that voluntarily. Bishop is really stronger. If you want, you can think that bishop costs 3.5 pawns, whereas knight only 3. So you never want to just lose half of a point for nothing. Of course, there are some exceptions. There are positions when when it's completely closed, so the knight are more tricky than the bishop, but in most of the cases, the bishop is really stronger, so don't exchange it, please, for the knight without any very good reason. So, takes. Well, you can say that black compromised the pawn structure, but actually I would argue it's not a big deal, and it helps white to break through in the center, and as we are gonna see later on, that is exactly what helped white a lot. b6, bishop to c1, that helps to protect the e4 pawn, so d4 is now, possible for white. And that is exactly what happened. I actually like this move. I mean, the computer says it's an accuracy. Maybe you could have prepared it a little bit here, maybe with bishop to b2, maybe protecting the e4 pawn, although that's pretty difficult. So I would say that it's a very interesting move because black is about to play c5, open up the bishop, and that is exactly the moment where you need to be active, you need to do something about it. So I like this move. Takes, and the point is, if you just take it back, then you're gonna lose the e4 pawn and black would be happy with that. So e5, that is the key idea behind the whole d4 idea. And now if knight moves, we just take it on d4 and have a beautiful pawn structure. And that is exactly what happened. And now after queen to e7, which is a blunder according to chess.com, why, you're gonna ask me? Well, because this knight, it stands in the center of the board, seems like it's a perfect piece, but in fact it doesn't really have any good squares. So after the move c4 here, bishop b2 has been played unfortunately, but after the move c4, the knight simply has no squares to go and it's going to be lost. f4 is covered by the bishop, f6 is covered by the pawn. Queen e7 is so bad because it removes this e7 square from the knight. And the only one is c3, but then you're never gonna get it back if I just attack it with the queen. So c4 was winning on the spot here for white. And once again, back to the secret formula that you must use every time. Checks, captures, and threats. Here, there are no checks, no captures, but there is a threat that you can create. The way to go about the threats is also from top to bottom. So you start with the king. Can you create any threats against the king? Not really. The queen, also not really. Then the rooks, yeah, not the case. The bishop, no, but the knight, yes, you can attack the knight. And then, of course, you need to start calculating the variations, whether the knight has a good square to go. And then you realize it doesn't. And then seems like c4 is a beautiful move to make. So that is the way to go about it. White has played bishop to b2, which seems like a normal move. I mean, improving the bishop's position can never be bad, but c4 is just so much better. It's winning. So that is why you should start with those most active moves, because otherwise you're not gonna find it. So c5 has been played, and now white played c4, which is still great because still there are no squares for the knight to go. Even c3 is covered now, but there is a f4 which is not covered now. So I would argue c4 was much better a move earlier, but still great. Knight f4 and just d5. I mean, look at this pawn center for white. That is just a dream. That is exactly what you should be aiming for in every one of your games. Now we are coming to the number one reason why so many lower rated players cannot break through in chess. The reason is they are too passive. I mean, that is not the way it works in chess. If you're too passive, you're not gonna succeed. I mean, you can wait and hope there that your opponent is gonna blunder something and, I don't know, play e6 here and blunder one of his pawns, and you're gonna be happy about that, but that's not the way it should work. You should be active, you should go forward, you should create the threats, and that is the way you improve at chess and you beat your opponents. So let me illustrate you why it's so important. The problem for black is that you don't really have enough space for your pieces. This bishop is so passive there. If you play c6 here, for example, then the pawn will go even further, and yes, those pawns are just hilarious. Once again, that is a dream case scenario that you should be aiming for. So queen to d7 has been played. Now queen to d2, attacking this knight again, creating a threat. So I like it. It's a developing move, and at the same time, it's attacking the piece. Well, queen to c2 was another very good move because it doesn't allow the opponent to get to the f5 square, which, yeah, is an option here. But for some reason, black decided to play rook to d8, and that is, of course, a blunder. And remember the secret formula: checks, captures, and threats. well, you need to use it not only for yourself, not only for your moves. You never play alone. That is, by the way, one of the biggest mistakes every chess player makes, just forgetting that you're actually playing against another human being, and he has his own ideas, his own threats. Yeah, and maybe you should think about it. So here, queen to d2, as black, you should stop for a second, forget about all of your plans, about your development ideas, whatever it is on your mind, and you should take a look at this move queen to d2. What kind of threats it possesses? What is the point of this move? Why on earth has white played queen to d2 and not c2, not b3 and something else? And you should immediately try to think about checks, captures, and threats. Well, there is no threat to give a check, but there is a threat to capture the knight. So you have to do about it. You have to do something about it. When your piece is under attack, you have a few ways to deal with it. You can either just remove the piece, or you can defend it, or you can create a counter threat. For example, your knight is under attack, but you are attacking, I don't know, your opponent's rook. Then that would be even more significant threat. But in this case, it's not possible, so black should either remove it or try to defend it. So they didn't do that, and that is why white took it. And now, plus, for this space advantage, there is also an extra piece, beautiful position for white. Let's see how white managed to convert the advantage. I don't know, this e6 move is interesting because it's opening up the bishop, but actually I would say it's not required at all. d6 is much simpler because now everything is protected. You still have ways to penetrate somehow. I mean, this bishop is so miserable there. I mean, you should just punish black for such a bad attitude to the animals for this bishop on b7. And I say the animals because in my language they call the bishop the elephant. That is why, yeah, for me it's an animal. So e6, just 95. Yeah, I understand also the point of this move because now all of the pieces are so active, so you can never blame e6. Everybody can win the way they want. Just be careful with that. Okay, now takes, that allows, yeah, I mean, that allows black to develop the bishop at least, but of course the position is still completely winning. Knight c6 is an immediate threat there. Knight g6 has been played, and now knight f4. Yeah, a lot of moves with the same piece. I don't really like it. I'm not a big fan of that. I like to bring all of your pieces into the game instead, like doubling the rooks along the e-file would have been great somewhere here. For example, your knight is on e5. It's so great. I mean, play rook e2, play rook e1, or rook to d1 for that matter, because exchanging the pieces is the best thing you can do when you are some material up. But still, it doesn't really blunder anything. And now rook e2. I mean, a brilliant move on 1400 level. That is something incredible, I would say. But for me personally, like rook e2 is a very, very human-like move because you want, especially being some material up, you want just to make sure that everything is fine, that your opponent doesn't really have any threats, because queen f7 is a clear indication, or rook f8 and queen f7 is a clear indication that your opponent wants to do something along the f-file. And once again, at this point, it's so important to think, okay, what is the point of all that? Forget for a second about your ideas like knight e6 and just try to think about your opponent's ideas. Once that is clear that he wants to do something along the f-file, then you should be very careful with that. Because, yeah, knight e6, queen f2, I mean, that doesn't feel fun anymore. So, and that is why rook e2 is such a great move, just eliminating all sorts of counterplay for your opponent. Very, very important, especially when you have some material or in general some advantage. Queen d7, and now there is knight takes e7, no real problems. And yeah, knight d8, the game is over here, black resigned. So I hope you really learned a lot out of this game here, because activity is so important in chess. You just can't be too passive. You can't stay there and wait for your opponent to come after you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and in this video I'm gonna share with you the strategies that helps you to outplay your opponent so easy to make it natural for you.